Senator Moody, may I clarify one thing he entered in the record? I just want to say that I believe he entered a letter by 200 and something former employees. Well, I believe the spokesperson for that letter was also the spokesperson for Jack Smith. Schiff, I answered that question multiple times. And frankly, you know.
Well, I don't think, with respect, I don't think you did. But in case I just didn't hear you, what is the answer? Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, that happened prior to my confirmation as Attorney General. I said that.
Do you know, sitting here, whether
All
he took
I
the money?
know is that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Patel said there was no case. And Caroline Leavitt is one of the most trustworthy human beings I know.
So
and,
was she? Was she
if
right?
you worked for me, you would have been fired because you were censured by Congress for lying with your
We can stipulate to, you can stipulate to all your personal attacks on the Democratic members of the committee.
Personal attacks? You've been attacking my FBI director. You've been attacking my office. You've been attacking.
But what we're interested in.
Borders are.
What we're interested in is the answer.
Okay, so picture this. The President of the United States accidentally, and I mean accidentally, posts what was supposed to be a private message. A message that basically reads like a hit list. I'm not even exaggerating here. We're talking names, demands, the whole thing out there for everyone to see. And who's on this list? James Comey, Adam Schiff, Letitia James, all people who've gone after Trump in the past. And the message is Trump telling his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to prosecute them. Right now. No delays. Just do it. Can you believe this? This isn't some conspiracy theory floating around on social media. This isn't anonymous sources or leaked documents that maybe, possibly, could be fake. No, Trump himself posted it, September 20th, 2025. The whole world saw it. And let me tell you, Washington absolutely lost its mind. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust headlines anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video. The message said, and I'm paraphrasing here, they're all guilty as hell, but nothing is being done. Justice must be served now, with 3 exclamation points. Because apparently one wasn't enough to really drive home the whole authoritarian vibe. Now here's where it gets wild. Within hours, literally hours, Bondi rushes to the White House for an emergency meeting. Not scheduled, not on any official calendar, just boom, crisis mode. Her, Trump, and top White House aides behind closed doors trying to figure out how to clean up this absolute disaster. In the DOJ? Oh man, senior officials are reportedly in open revolt. That's the actual phrase being used by people inside the building, in open revolt. These are career prosecutors, people who've served under Republicans and Democrats, and they're saying trust in Bondi has completely collapsed. Think about that for a second. The Attorney General, the person who's supposed to be the top law enforcement official in the country, is losing the confidence of her own department. Why? Because it looks like she's using the Justice Department as Trump's personal revenge machine. This is wild. And here's the kicker. Less than a week after that message leaked, James Comey gets indicted. Letitia James, fast-track charges, just like that, like clockwork. Almost like someone got their orders and decided to follow them no matter what the Constitution says. Legal experts across the board, and I'm talking about people from both sides, are calling these prosecutions politically motivated. There's no sugarcoating it anymore. This isn't about justice. This is about settling scores. So yeah, we've got a president who accidentally exposed his own enemies list, an attorney general who's reportedly doing his bidding, a Justice Department in chaos, and congressional Democrats already planning hearings on what they're calling the weaponization of the DOJ for political revenge. This isn't normal. I don't care what side you're on. This isn't how any of this is supposed to work. And the timing? Oh, the timing is perfect. We're heading into 2026 midterms. The political climate is already explosive. Trust in institutions is at an all-time low. And now this is gasoline on a fire that was already out of control. Here's what nobody's talking about enough. This isn't just about Trump and Bondi. This is about what happens when the line between personal vendetta and official government action completely disappears. When the Justice Department stops being an independent check on power and becomes what? An enforcement arm for whoever's in the White House? Because let me tell you, if this stands, if there are no consequences for this, then we've crossed the line we can't uncross. Democrats do it next time they're in power. Republicans do it again after that. And pretty soon, we're not a country with rule of law. We're just a country where whoever wins gets to prosecute whoever loses. That's not America. That's something else entirely. And the scariest part, Half the country will cheer for it as long as it's their team doing it. That's where we are now. That's the reality. So in this video, we're breaking down exactly what happened. The full story behind that leaked message. What went down in that secret White House meeting. Why DOJ officials are reportedly ready to resign en masse. And what this means for everyone, not just the people on Trump's list, but for the future of justice in this country. Because this isn't just a Trump story. This is a what kind of country are we story. Stick with me. This gets even worse than you think. All right, so let's rewind a bit and talk about how we even got here. Because this didn't just happen out of nowhere. This is the culmination of years, literally years of tension between Trump and the people he believes wronged him. James Comey, the former FBI director who Trump fired back in his first term. The guy who Trump thinks started the whole Russia investigation that plagued his presidency. Trump has never, and I mean never, let that go. Adam Schiff, the congressman who led the first impeachment against Trump, who Trump has called every name in the book. Shifty Schiff, pencil neck, the guy Trump blames for dragging his name through the mud on national television. Letitia James, the New York Attorney General who went after Trump's business empire, who brought the civil fraud case that resulted in massive penalties against the Trump organization.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attorney General Bondi, at your confirmation hearing in January, made a clear commitment you would not politicize your position. We are here today at your first oversight hearing 9 months into your tenure, at a time when hundreds of career prosecutors have quit.
Another person Trump sees as part of a coordinated attack against him. These aren't random names. These are people who've been on Trump's radar for years, and apparently they've been on a list, an actual list of people Trump wants prosecuted. And here's the thing, we all kind of knew this, right? Trump's been talking about going after his political enemies since forever. He campaigned on lock her up with Hillary Clinton. He's talked openly about prosecuting people he thinks committed crimes against him. But there's a difference between campaign rhetoric and actually doing it. There's a difference between venting at a rally and sending a direct order to your attorney general. And that's what this leaked message represents. The moment when the rhetoric became reality, when the threat became action. September 20th, 2025, Trump posts what was clearly meant to be a private communication. Maybe it was supposed to be a direct message. Maybe it was a draft that got published by accident. Either way, it goes public. And the exact words are stunning. The message essentially said, Pam, they're all guilty as hell, but nothing is being done. Justice must be served now. Now let's break down what's wrong with this, because there's a lot. First, the president is telling the attorney general who to prosecute. That's not how this works. The DOJ is supposed to be independent. The attorney general makes prosecutorial decisions based on evidence and law, not based on what the president wants. This is foundational stuff. This is Civics 101. The president doesn't get to order prosecutions of his enemies. That's what authoritarian leaders do. That's what happens in countries where the justice system is just an extension of whoever's in power. Second, the claim that they're all guilty as hell. Really? Based on what? What investigation? What evidence? Or is it just that Trump thinks they're guilty because they went after him? Because if that's the standard, then guilt doesn't mean anything anymore. And third, the urgent demand that justice must be served now. The urgency, the demand, the complete lack of any legal process. This reads like a mob boss giving orders, not a president upholding the Constitution. So the message leaks, and within hours, Bondi is at the White House. No public announcement, no press availability, just an emergency meeting behind closed doors with Trump and his closest aides. What were they discussing? Well, according to sources who talked to NBC and Mediaite, they were in full damage control mode. How do we spin this? How do we explain this? Can we walk it back? Can we claim it was taken out of context? But here's the problem. You can't walk back a direct order that's already been made public. The cat's out of the bag. Everyone knows what Trump wants. Everyone knows Bondi knows what Trump wants. And then less than a week later, boom, James Comey indicted. Letitia James facing expedited charges. Like someone flipped a switch. Now maybe these are legitimate cases based on actual evidence and actual crimes. Maybe. But the timing? Come on. You really expect anyone to believe this is just a coincidence? That Trump's message had nothing to do with these prosecutions suddenly moving forward at lightning speed? Legal experts aren't buying it. Constitutional scholars aren't buying it. Even some Republicans, quietly off the record, are saying this looks bad. Really bad. Because here's what it looks like. It looks like the Justice Department is being used as a weapon, not to uphold the law, not to pursue justice, but to punish people who challenge Trump. And inside the DOJ, according to multiple reports, morale has never been lower. Career prosecutors, people who've dedicated their lives to public service, are reportedly considering resignation. Some already have. Senior DOJ officials told reporters anonymously because they're terrified of retaliation that they were blindsided and furious about both the leak and the directive. They feel like they're being asked to abandon their oath to the Constitution and instead serve one man's personal grievances. Think about what that means. The people inside the Justice Department, the ones actually doing the work, don't trust their own boss. They think she's compromised. They think she's putting loyalty to Trump above loyalty to the law. And you know what? They're probably right. Pam Bondi isn't some random pick. She's been in Trump's orbit for years. She was part of his defense team during his first impeachment. She's been a vocal supporter, a loyalist, and Trump rewards loyalty above everything else. So when Trump needed an attorney general after winning his second term, someone who would do what he wanted without pushback, Bondi was the obvious choice. And now we're seeing exactly why he picked her. This is the return of the enemies list. And if you think that's hyperbole, look at history. Richard Nixon had an enemies list, people who criticized him, journalists who wrote negative stories, political opponents, and Nixon used the power of the federal government to go after them. It was one of the things that led to his downfall. It was one of the abuses of power that made Watergate such a scandal, and we swore as a country that we'd never let that happen again. And yet here we are. Trump has brought back the enemies list, and unlike Nixon, he's not even trying to hide it. He posted it publicly. He's proud of it. His supporters cheer for it, and that's maybe the scariest part of all this, because in Nixon's time, both parties agreed this was wrong. Republicans eventually turned on Nixon because what he did was indefensible. But now it's trouble. If Trump does it, his base supports it. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it violates every norm we've ever had. If Trump does it, it must be okay. And that's how democracies die. Not with a bang, but with half the country cheering while institutions crumble. Congressional Democrats are already moving. They're planning hearings. They're talking about the weaponization of the DOJ. They're using words like impeachment again. But will it matter? Trump survived 2 impeachments already. His supporters didn't care then. Why would they care now? And that's the question hanging over all of this. At what point does any of this actually have consequences? At what point do lines that can't be crossed actually exist? Because right now it feels like there are no lines anymore. Just power, and who has it, and what they're willing to do with it. Okay, so let's break this down into the key points you need to understand, because there's a lot swirling around here, and it's easy to get lost in the chaos, but there are really 3 or 4 core things that matter. Let's start with point 1, presidential power and DOJ independence. The Justice Department is supposed to be independent. Not completely. Obviously, the Attorney General serves at the pleasure of the president, but independent in terms of prosecutorial decisions. The president doesn't get to order specific prosecutions. That's the rule. That's always been the rule. Why? Because if the president can just order the arrest and prosecution of anyone he wants, then we don't have rule of law. We have rule by one person. And that person can eliminate any opposition just by claiming they committed crimes. Trump's message to Bondi blows right past that line. He's explicitly telling her who to prosecute. Not suggesting, not recommending, telling. Justice must be served now with all the urgency and demand that implies. And the fact that prosecution started moving forward immediately after, that suggests Bondi listened. That suggests she's taking orders from Trump instead of following the evidence wherever it leads. That's not how this is supposed to work. And if we let it slide, if we just accept that this is normal now, then that protection is gone forever. Point 2, the enemies list. This isn't about whether James Comey or Adam Schiff or Letitia James did anything wrong. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. That's not the point. The point is they're being targeted because they went after Trump. That's the common thread. Not evidence of crimes, not ongoing investigations that led to them, just they challenged Trump and now they're facing charges. That's what an enemies list is. A list of people you want punished, not because of what they did, but because of who they are to you. Nixon had one. It destroyed his presidency. It's one of the most infamous abuses of power in American history, and Trump just brought it back, out in the open, and a huge chunk of the country is fine with it, as long as it's their side doing it. Think about that for a second. Think about what it means when we accept this as normal. Because if Democrats win in 2028, are they going to go after Trump allies? Are they going to prosecute everyone who worked in his administration? Is that just how it works now? That's not a country. That's a cycle of revenge, and it doesn't end well. Point 3, the DOJ in crisis. Inside the Justice Department, this is causing a meltdown. Senior officials are in open revolt. That's not media spin. That's reporting from multiple sources. Career prosecutors feel like they're being asked to abandon everything they believe in. Their oath is to the Constitution, not to Donald Trump, and they're being put in an impossible position. Follow orders from Bondi, who's clearly following orders from Trump, and become part of a political prosecution, or refuse and lose their jobs. Maybe worse, some are choosing to leave, just walking away from careers they've built over decades, because they can't be part of this. And the ones who stay, morale has never been lower. Trust in leadership has collapsed. The institution itself is fracturing. This is what happens when you weaponize an institution. You don't just use it for your purposes. You destroy it from the inside. You make it impossible for it to function the way it's supposed to, and once that damage is done, it's really hard to undo. Point 4, the political fallout. We're heading into 2026 midterms, and this is going to be front and center. Democrats are already calling hearings. They're talking about impeachment. They're framing this as the ultimate proof that Trump is a threat to democracy. Republicans, most of them are staying quiet. A few are defending Trump, saying the prosecutions are legitimate, saying the media is overreacting, but most are just silent, hoping it blows over. In Trump's base, they love it. They want him to go after these people. They think Comey and Schiff and James are criminals who got away with it for too long. They see this as Trump finally delivering on his promises. So politically, this isn't going to hurt Trump with his core supporters. If anything, it helps him. It shows he's keeping his word. He said he'd go after his enemies, and he is. But independents, swing voters, people who are exhausted by the chaos, this might be the thing that finally pushes them over the edge. Because even if you support Trump on policy, even if you think he's been treated unfairly, this is hard to defend. This is openly using the government to punish people you don't like. And if there's one thing most Americans still believe in, it's fairness. The idea that the law applies equally, that you can't just weaponize the justice system because you have power. This violates that principle, clearly, obviously, and that might matter in 2026. So why does this matter? Here's the bottom line. This isn't just about Trump and Bondi. This isn't just about a leaked message or some prosecutions that may or may not be legitimate. This is about what kind of country we are. Do we have rule of law, or do we have rule by whoever's in charge? Do we have institutions that can check power, or do we have institutions that serve power? Do we have a justice system that's blind, or do we have a justice system that targets enemies and protects friends? These are foundational questions. And right now, the answers are terrifying. Because if this stands, if there are no consequences, if we just accept that this is how things work now, then we've lost something we can't get back. And yeah, I know some of you are thinking, but what about when Democrats did X? Or what about when the FBI went after Trump? I get it. There's plenty of blame to go around. Plenty of examples of institutions being used politically. But this is different. This is the president openly ordering prosecutions in writing for everyone to see. And then those prosecutions happening almost immediately. This isn't subtle. This isn't plausible deniability. This is just doing it out loud. And if we normalize this, then it's over. Then every future president, Democrat or Republican, will do the same thing, and we'll just be a country where winners prosecute losers forever. That's not America. That's not what any of us signed up for. So yeah, this matters. This matters more than almost any other story right now, because this is about the future, about what we're willing to tolerate, about where the lines are. And right now, those lines are being erased right in front of us. Congressional hearings are coming. More resignations are probably coming. This story is far from over. And the big question, the one nobody can answer yet, is whether any of it will actually matter, whether there will be consequences, whether the system can still hold. We're about to find out. Next time, we're diving into what those congressional hearings might look like, who's testifying, what Democrats are planning, and whether Republicans will finally break ranks, because this fight is just getting started.